My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one plus update. My wife, 29F, and I had a baby in December, and I am 31 years old. It was a difficult birth, and my wife suffered from postpartum depression as a result. While she had intended to return to work following the birth of our daughter, she has been experiencing significant difficulties, and we have decided to wait until our daughter is a year old before making a decision. She has been attending weekly treatment sessions. As a result of my wife being at home full-time, I've had to work longer hours. This was something we talked about before making this decision, and she was aware of it from the beginning. My supervisor approached me a few weeks ago about a project that would necessitate a significant quantity of overtime in a short period of time. It would be beneficial for my financial well-being as well as my professional development. I discussed it with my wife, and she agreed that I should answer yes to my boss when he asked. During the 4 weeks that I would be working on this, my mother-in-law and her closest friend, Jessie, 29F, last name altered, would come to my house to assist me with some of the responsibilities that I would normally perform. Jessie is a stay-at-home mom of 2 little children, ages 4 and 2. She started coming over during the day to watch the kids with my wife, and it worked out really well. The project had been underway for 3 weeks when it became evident that we'd need a few more weeks to put it all together. I returned home that evening and discussed the situation with my wife. She stated that she felt well with it, but she became extremely cold in the following days. Due to the fact that it had been an atypical pattern of behavior over the previous few months, I didn't give it much thought and tried not to take it personally. When I returned home one evening during the final week of the project, I discovered that Jessie had remained at the house. I didn't give it much thought. I simply said hello to her and my wife and then went to see how our kid was doing. Before I could get to her room, I overheard Jessie scream something to the effect of "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." He doesn't even bother to come over and say hello. There's definitely a message here. I walked around the corner and inquired as to what it signified. Immediately, my wife began to sob, and Jessie began to accuse me of having a relationship with another woman. She informed me that I must despise my wife because she suffers from postpartum depression, and that I am not attracted to her because she has gained weight as a result of the pregnancy. Neither of these statements is correct. I'm doing everything I can to support my wife through her PPD, while also providing for our family. And I think she looks fine the way she is right now. She just hasn't expressed an interest in having children, and I haven't pressed her. Jessie then requested to see my phone, which I refused to show her. I told her she couldn't have it. She informed me that this was a sign that I was guilty. I informed my wife that I would let her to look at my phone if she so desired. When she nodded, something inside of me burst open. I think it was the fact that she truly felt I was having an affair that made me feel so bad about myself. And that she didn't trust me after everything that had happened between us. She took a peek through her phone and discovered that there was no evidence. In the beginning, Jessie claimed that I had erased the proof. The woman began yelling, which woke up our daughter, so I told her to leave the house right away. I went to our daughter's room to soothe her down because my wife was still crying on the couch. She eventually left. When my daughter had fallen asleep again, I sat down next to my wife and attempted to communicate with her about what had been going on. She informed me that she has been concerned about me ever since I began working all of the extra. It was my intention to tell her that we had discussed how great of an opportunity this was, and that she had consented to let me take on this job. She thought it was quite odd that the project's duration had been extended. I informed her that this does occur from time to time. She insisted on seeing more proof, so I sent her messages and emails from work with timestamps, as well as pay stubs that proved the OT. She said she trusted me, and that she was sorry for having doubted me. It was only that Jessie had been telling her that all of these were signals that I was cheating on my husband. I questioned her about why she had more trust in Jessie than in me, and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She was unable to provide a satisfactory response. It has been a couple of weeks since the job was completed. To be able to spend more time with my wife and daughter, I have actually reduced my workload and am attempting to work a little less than I did before the project. But I'm really exhausted from trying to juggle everything, and am feeling angry since I know in the back of my mind that my wife doesn't put her trust in me. I consider what will happen the next time I have a project on my hands. Or do I have to run errands on a particular day? Or what if I'm going on a business trip? Is it possible that I'll be subjected to charges of cheating on a regular basis? I've attempted to bring it up a few of times, but my wife has stated that it is not the appropriate time, and that she is tired or depressed. I make an effort to be sensitive to her emotions, but I wonder whether this means that I will never be able to experience any of my own. I'm not sure what to do at this point. Do you have any suggestions about how I should proceed? Update. Thank you to everyone who provided feedback and encouragement in response to my previous post. I believe a large number of you have pointed out what should have been obvious, that I need to see a therapist and take responsibility for my own mental well-being. I received a handful of requests for an update, so I'm providing one, but it's not a good one. That evening, I addressed my wife and informed her that I was going to seek professional help. I didn't make any connection between it and her charges. I simply stated that I was going through a difficult period and needed counseling. She shrugged and encouraged me to go ahead and do whatever I wanted. When I returned home from work the next day, our room and my home office had been completely destroyed. Things can be found everywhere. Important papers were strewn about. But our daughter, who is screaming in her room, is not visible to me. My wife has left her alone, and her cell phone has been turned off. I reach out to my in-laws and a few friends, but no one has seen or heard from her. I'm beginning to be concerned, so I call my mother to see if she will be able to babysit while I go out and search for her. My wife returns home before my mother can get there since Jessie is driving. The only person that comes in is my wife, not my daughter Jessie, who hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my actions. She's plainly disturbed, as evidenced by her crying. I inquire as to what transpired. For a brief moment, I considered that the house had been looted. She starts yelling at me, accusing me of being unfaithful and claiming that the treatment is a ruse to get me to meet her mistress. Although I attempted to calm her down and inform her that this was not the case, she retaliated by hitting me. My nose has been broken for a long time. She had a vague awareness of what she had done and sat down on the couch, where she became unconscious and just gazed at the wall. It was time for me to go into my daughter's room and lock the door. It was necessary to call my mother to inform her of the situation. She was already on her way, as well as my in-laws to request that they come over and care for my wife. I packed a bag for my kid, and as soon as my mother arrived, we were on our way. My wife didn't even bother to raise her head. We dropped my daughter up with my father, and then proceeded to an urgent care center for my nose infection to be treated. My mother's new Subaru was covered in blood as a result of my accident. My daughter and I will be staying with my parents for a time, while my wife will be staying with her folks. An application for a protective order against Jessie is being considered by me. My wife and I have decided to separate. Despite my feelings for her, I will not live with someone who has injured me, and who has the potential to hurt our daughter. I have decided not to proceed with a divorce at this time in the hopes that my wife will receive the treatment she requires, and that we will be able to work things out. It was brought to my attention by my in-laws that they are considering inpatient treatment at a local hospital. Nonetheless, I have everything meticulously documented in the event of a future custody dispute. My heart is torn because I know this isn't my wife. This is a mental illness that has taken hold of her. However, I must ensure the safety of myself and our kid, as well as providing her with the necessary time to heal. This is something I'm hoping is the proper decision. Once again, thank you to everyone. Edit, thank you to everyone for their comments. After reading your remarks, I discussed the situation with my parents and came to the conclusion that, for the sake of my daughter's safety, I should make a police report. I'm on my way to the train station right now. Update 1. More information on this situation can be found in my previous blog posts. My wife passed away in the early hours of Monday morning. As a result of her friend Jessie convincing her that I was having an affair that I was not having, she suffered a mental breakdown, which ended in my removing our infant daughter and temporarily residing with my parents. She was in the company of her parents, who planned to transport her to the hospital on Monday for inpatient care. In the middle of the night on Sunday, she arrived to my parents' house and asked that I hand over our kid to her. The reason I declined was that she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her, and had gotten physical with me as a result. I offered to let her come into the house and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she refused and insisted on bringing our kid with her instead. She was agitated, but she ultimately left. She was killed when she crashed her parents' car into a tree a few hours later. Jessie, a friend of mine, paid a visit to my daughter and myself yesterday. Then she broke down in tears and told me that she was preparing to speak at my wife's memorial service. She had already approved it with my in-laws, but she wanted to make sure I was aware of it as a courtesy. I informed her that she would not be making a speech at the funeral. Our argument ended with her leaving after informing me that I was not the only one who cherished my wife's presence in her life. I spoke with my in-laws, who are adamant that Jessie be given the opportunity to speak. She and my wife have known each other since they were children, and my in-laws are quite close to her and her family. We're all in a vulnerable state right now, and I'm worried that pressing this issue any further would sour my connection with my in-laws, which is something I don't want. I'm still sick to my stomach at the prospect of seeing Jessie up on the balcony at my wife's memorial service. With the knowledge that she took pleasure in my wife's declining mental state, and that she picked up my wife while leaving my kid alone, I don't believe I can bear to listen to her anymore. That being said, I don't have confidence in my ability to make the best selections at this time. My thoughts are muddled by feelings of grief, remorse, and terror. The decision between my parents is divided, and I don't have the energy to seek out to my friends for help. As a result, I'm returning to this forum to seek your help.